Matt Hughes. You probably know the accolades by now. National record holder in the steeple with an 8:11, multiple-time world championship finalist, Pan Am gold medalist, Olympic finalist, two-time NCAA champion. Well, in 2019, he made a bold move. He left the biggest track and field group in the world of his own accord. Citing the reason that he had fallen out of love with the sport, he picked up, moved to Toronto, and started training with Coach Dave Reid and a mix of blue-collar runners like Wyatt and Paddy Birch. Things appear to be working for him as well, too, as he's since run PBs in the 5, an indoor 13:13, and the 15. Matt's picking up and getting ready to make a big splash at the Tokyo Games this year with a run of races and a stint at altitude in Europe, and we caught him just hours before he took off. My name is Michael Rokas, and this week on the Terminal Mile, we chat with Matt Hughes. All right, so you have a brand new shoe and apparel deal with HOKA One. You are just hours away from traveling to Europe. There's a lot of really exciting stuff happening on the horizon right now. But I think I'd like to start a couple of years ago. So on July 23rd, 2019, you announced your departure from the Bowerman Track Club, which, you know, as many of our listeners will know, is probably one of the highest profile clubs in the world. In that post, you said that running, a previous love of your life, had turned into a bit of a chore, into a little bit of a job. Now, since then, you've moved back to Canada and you've been training in Toronto. So I think that's a good place to start. In 2021, what is your relationship with running now?
I think, definitely took a step back and tried to like enjoy it a little bit more. I think being in Jerry's group, the Bowerman group, was great, and I'll always like look back at my time there pretty fondly, and lifelong friends in the group for sure. But yeah, it can be like very stressful being in the group as well. Like you can imagine like being in a group of that many high quality guys, like it got to the point where like, you know, workouts were harder than races, and it was just a stressful environment to be in. And not that it was like stressful to the point where I wasn't enjoying it, but when most of 2017 and 18, I spent like away from the group because my fiance moved back to Canada due to like visa reasons. So I was doing a lot of like off-season work, and outside of like being at altitude camps with the guys, I wasn't really training with them or like living and training in Portland. So you know, when you like know the quality of the workouts that the guys are doing, it's kind of like incapable of doing those. Like you can't do those workouts solo. Like you need a group to do them. So it was always like I felt like I was falling behind the group when I wasn't with them, and that like compounded on to like, you know, many other things. Just like really wasn't enjoying running anymore, and that affected racing, and to the point where, you know, I was putting like way too much stock in like how a race should go and make me feel emotionally. And you know, if I didn't have a good result, I'd like that like affect my life outside of running. And just like, it got to the point where I just like wasn't enjoying just like even like going out for an easy run or anything like that. So I just made the decision that I needed to, you know, leave the group and try to find like the love of running again. And got back to Toronto and linked up with Dave Reid, who I've known for many years, and it just kind of fell into to a group with him. And as much as like Dave is my coach, I think he's more of like a mentor to me than anything, than really like a coach. I feel like I'm at the point in my career where I know what I need to do, but you know, bouncing stuff off of Dave and having him bounce stuff off of me has been really good for me this last 2 years.
Well, first of all, I'm really glad to hear that you're back enjoying it. You know, I'm following along with you on Strava, and there's and on the social media, just the group that you're running with now. You know, a lot of interesting people in there, all people that I really like as well. You know, Paddy Birch, Kate Van Buskirk, who just ran a huge sub 15 5,000, and Kyle Wyatt. I see him jumping into those workouts. What has that dynamic been like, and what's it like to, you know, training with guys who may not have those specific goals that the Bowerman guys would have had?
Yeah, it's been good, to be honest. Like I remember joking with like Paddy and Dave early on when I first moved back, and you wake up for these like early morning workouts in Hyde Park, and we kind of have to go early because you know guys like Kyle and Paddy have full-time jobs, so they have to get their workouts out of the way before they go to work. And it was funny, like I remember saying to Dave, like, it's hard to show up and complain to guys like Paddy who, are going and working full time after this. Like, I can't really show up and complain that it's like cold out or that, it's too early or it's raining or stuff like that. Cause, those guys don't want to hear it. Cause, the running is like their like outlet, is like their time to, have fun and enjoy stuff. So like for me to like sit there and complain about what the weather's like or like being too early or stuff like that, if for me, it just puts things into perspective that, what I get to do on a daily basis and call running my job is something that I shouldn't and I can't take for granted.
You've mentioned Dave, but you've had some fantastic coaches over the years. Wynn and Jerry, Schumacher and Gmitrowski. Really impressive resumes there. You say that Dave is kind of he's a bit of a mentor to you now, so you have a lot of autonomy over your training and that sort of stuff. What's some of the stuff that you've taken from Wynn and Jerry that you've continued to apply to your training now?
I say like with Wynn, it's more just like the attention to detail. I think just like going from college straight to Wynn, who like Wynn looked at like everything, like from like not only a coaching level, but also like he was a very high class, physiotherapist himself. So I think like looking at stuff from like the lens of, a physical therapist as well, was very valuable to me. And the importance of like rest and recovery and planning your travel and just like all the like minute details that the average runner really wouldn't think of, but when you get to this level, like you need to just like little things of like when am I going to travel to Europe, like I need to get there and then like get a workout in and rest and recovery and all the things that go behind work, just like running hard and working out at a high level. Definitely took that from Wynn, and not only Wynn, but learned a lot from Nate. Coming from college and just being a fresh college kid, and then living and training with Nate full time in Scottsdale and Flagstaff. Learning a lot from Nate was crucial in my early development as a professional. And then with Jerry, with Jerry was, I think like Jerry, like there's no secrets to Jerry's training. I think that's what I learned like really early on after joining the group, is like there wasn't any like secret sessions that he had or like, there was no secrets to Jerry's training. It was just hard training all the time. And if you survived the training, you got really fit and you raced at a really high level. But there were some like key, steeplechase sessions that I took from him, and maybe even 5K sessions that we took from him that, on paper isn't anything crazy. And most of the guys that are like in the top of the world are probably doing them. But yeah, just stuff that I, with Wynn came from more of like a speed, and not as much strength training, having Coach Gary Reid and then coaching Nate and more 1500 meter guys. When I trained with Wynn, like, not that I didn't run like a lot of volume and high mileage, but a lot of the workouts were, we never really went beyond race distance in workouts, where with Jerry, if you're doing, a steeplechase session, it's normally 5K worth of volume, or if you're doing a 1500 meter session, it's usually, 3K worth of volume or something like that. Where with Wynn, it was, if you're doing a steeplechase session, it's usually not much over 3K, and then vice versa if you're doing 5K or 1500 meter sessions. So, Jerry just, like, I guess maybe you could say like push the boundaries a little bit more of what he like trying to squeeze out of his athletes.
You mentioned the 5,000 there, and I think that's the direction I'd like to take in next, because such a pivotal race for you was, I think it was like really your first really big race, after leaving the group was a 13:13:5,000 indoors, which is just a ripping fast time, but a big PB for you at the time as well too. In your reaction to that race, you were talking about having this lingering feeling that your best racing days were behind you prior to running that race. I'd like you to expand on that a little bit more. What did that indoor 13:13 mean to you, as far as your racing now?
Yeah, no, it was great. I think it showed that, there's like, the analogy, there's I don't know, I got this from like my grandfather, but like there's more than one way to skin a cat or something. Like, I don't know what the analogy is, but like you can go about something differently. And I think, and I don't know if it's just like the way, Jerry's philosophy is, or the way the athletes kind of like attract to Jerry. But I think some people within that group think that you can't be successful without doing it Jerry's way. And it was good for me to prove to myself, and it was good for Dave and everyone involved in my training that, you can do it a different way. And it's not like I didn't have, like, I had success with Wynn and before Jerry, but yeah, I think it was nice to know that the training that we had done throughout the fall and then in Flagstaff last year leading into that 5K at BU, we had done a ton of really good stuff, and it was nice for it to pay off in the form of a PB. So just nice knowing that everything that we thought we were doing right was worked out.
I think what a lot of running fans what they've identified with you on is your career. When you take to the track, you approach it so honestly, heart on your sleeve sort of thing. Whenever we see you spike up, we know that you're going to go out there and you're going to do what you can to win. Now kind of with that thought of, thinking that your best days are behind you, that seems to be a little bit of a conflict there. How are you handling races, at that time? Was there the thought of retirement, at that time?
Yeah, I don't know. Like, I don't know if I necessarily believe that, like, I guess, like, maybe knowing that, like, I probably already hit my peak, but in terms of, like, knowing, like, can I still PB? Like, I no doubt that I can PB. And, I think I showed that last year having PB'd in the 5K, and I still think there's a little bit more room there to PB as well in the 5K, and getting in into a good race at the right time, the right fitness. Yeah, a lot of things need to line up for you to PB. But, I know, having done the work with Jerry, like, I don't think my true fitness ever showed in that group, whether it was just bad luck. I felt like near the end there in Jerry's group, I just seemed to get, like, little, like, banged up or niggles just at the wrong time. So, I know from, like, personally from, like, doing workouts that, and I don't really love to say, like, oh, I ran this workout, so it means I should have been able to race this time. But, I'm still PBing in a lot of workouts still, and which shows, there's room to PB still in potentially the 1500 if you get into the right race. I still believe that I can break 8:10 given getting into the right race at the right time. So I don't necessarily think my, and I guess in a roundabout way, maybe my best days are behind me because, I might not be able to ultimately reach the potential that I maybe had at, 28, 29. But I still think during those years of my life, I don't think I really squeezed out the maximum potential out of myself or got hurt at the wrong time and wasn't able to capitalize on some of the fitness I had back then. But, having said that, again, I'll say I still think I can run quicker than some of my PBs are. So,
we can't go too much longer without mentioning brand new shoe contract with HOKA One One. a little bit of a different feel to those shoes than what you were running in before. What's that transition been like? And what's grabbed you so far from their line?
Yeah, it's great. It's like, when I was with Nike, you're kind of just like a small fish in a big pond. And, Nike's not only in running, they're across like almost all sports, right? So now it kind of just feels like you're part of just a small family, with HOKA just being, strictly just in running. But, I've only been with them for a few months now. So you're still kind of feeling out the relationship process, and definitely still trying to figure out, what are the best training shoes for me. And then, racing spikes, the prototypes that they have now are fairly good. I don't think they're at the level of Nike yet, but, the company is willing to try to get there and work with their athletes, which is encouraging, because there are a lot of shoe companies that, can't swallow their pride and feel like they need to pump out something better for their athletes. So, they're willing to work with their athletes, and I think it's just a good change for me where I'm at with my life now, like winding down the end of my career, being with a smaller company, and hopefully I can help them develop some stuff on the track. They haven't quite been a company that's had success on the track, so I think they're trying to have some athletes have success there. So if I can be one of those athletes that help propel the brand in that direction, then that would be awesome.
Before I forget, big congratulations on your first sub 340 1500 meter last year. Happened in a Euro trip for you last year during the COVID pandemic. Of course, we're still there, and you're hours away from taking off for Europe again. Looking at your schedule, looks like 2 steeples, another shot at the 1500 there as well as some time in St. Moritz. What are the big goals for this trip? What are you hoping to achieve by the time you leave?
I think just, getting in some more steeples. I think just the way the year set up last year, there was really only the one opportunity at Monaco, which was, a shame. I think I put a lot of pressure on myself to run faster, but, hindsight looking back now, it's really hard to open up with your first steeple and really have a banger, especially the way that race kind of set up. Like, the pacing was kind of up and down throughout the first K, so or even like the first 2K really. But last year the focus was more just trying to work on the foot speed and get quicker over 1500 meters. David said at the beginning of the year, if you could, and this was even before like the Olympics got canceled. We're talking with him in the fall and going into last year. It was, if you're gonna, get faster in the steeple, we need to get faster in the 1500 meters. And so a lot of the work going into the spring and then into the summer was the focus on just getting in, a bunch of 1500s and seeing how quick we can go. So, stringing together like 3 1500s back to back, like I think 3 weeks in a row last summer was good for me, because just the way, kind of I train, I'm definitely more of come from like the endurance side. So if you're looking at the 3K, I feel like I'm more of like a 3K 5K runner than a 3K 1500 runner. So for me, I feel like I need 3, 4, 1500 meters in a row before I finally, feel like I'm ready to, peak in that distance. So yeah, getting the opportunity to run a bunch back to back last year was fun, and something I'd never really done before. Even with Jerry and then with Wynn, I would only really ever run 1, maybe 2 15s a year, and it was always at the beginning of the season when you're not really sharp and ready to run a fast 15. So it was definitely fun to do that last year, and finally be rewarded with a time that I know I was capable of for a long time. So that was fun. But yeah, going into this year, definitely way more steeple focused with, Gateshead on the weekend, and then trying to just fit a 1500 meter in between Gateshead and Rome. And the idea there was just to have something that kind of feels like a prelim and a final that's not really that. We're just kind of setting up, Gateshead is on the 23rd. This small 15 in Manchester will be on the 27th. And, this is something, you asked me that question of like what I take from Wynn. This is something that like I would kind of have taken from Wynn, where you're like, how can you create a scenario that's like a prelim and a final, and it's, racing Gateshead and then trying to find a race, that's within a couple days. So you kind of get that feel of racing, two high quality races, even though it's not a steeple. You put your body through the process of, a shakeout the day before the race, and then, you go through the race, warm up and all that. And you just you're creating an environment that's going to hopefully set up to what Tokyo feels like in a prelim and a final scenario. So that was important to me and Dave to try to find that during this trip. And then, the next Diamond League in Rome / Florence is just hopefully another good opportunity at trying to run a fast time and racing the guys that I'm going to be racing against in Tokyo. And hopefully, the more you race them, the more you learn about them, and the more you can learn about them, the better chance you have of beating them. So, that's the plan behind those 3 races.
Oh, you mentioned the fun that you had last summer. You're forgetting one though, and I actually watched it back this morning. Was the Instagram video of you running a 4 flat mile somewhere in Toronto. I'm not exactly sure. Yep. What was that?
That's just a so it's just a little bike path, rail path that's close to my house that I do a lot of my afternoon or evening doubles on. I just remember, running it last year before I left and joking with Dave that it would be fun to run a mile on this, because it's it's slightly downhill, and the finish line's right at a brewery. So I was joking with them. It was fun to set up a road race here where you finish and then, have the brewery sponsor it or something like that. Would be fun, kind of cool. So I got back from Europe last year. I quarantined for 2 weeks and then did a couple just, get out in High Park, did a couple workouts, and then we just tried to see if the fitness had kind of carried over from the quarantine. And it was just a fun way to kind of end the season, and it was good.
Oh yeah, that was a lot of fun. Powered by potato chips too.
Yep.
You were pretty public on your thoughts for the games last year, saying that the Canada pulling out before the games got postponed was just the responsible thing to do. Now we're here in 2021. There's some uneasiness reported in the host country amongst citizens and volunteers. How are you feeling now about the 2021 games in regard to COVID protocols and how the host nation feels?
Yeah, I mean, it's tough because you're not there, right? So you can't really see what it's like on the ground level, and you only read what's kind of reported. And having been in the middle of the shit show that's going on in Ontario right now, so it's hard to know what's true and what's false media coming out from Tokyo. So it's really hard to tell. But having gone through racing in Europe last year in the middle of the pandemic, I see that it can work. You go to these races, you're getting tested, everyone's wearing a mask, everyone's abiding by protocols. So, it can work. The Olympics is a totally different animal, having, so many people coming in. But, if you're not going to have international fans, you're not going to have, thousands and, possibly millions of people traveling to the country. It's just going to be the athletes. And, hopefully by time Tokyo rolls around, a lot of the, you look at, I imagine every single American athlete's going to be vaccinated. All of the UK is going to be vaccinated. I've been vaccinated. It sounds like most Canadian athletes who have been either living or training in the States has been vaccinated. So, it sounds like it could be tough for these third world countries that are coming in without vaccines, but hopefully they're getting tested before they come in. And it sounds like the Olympics have already announced that if you don't have a vaccine coming in, that you can get one there. So I think that it can and it will work if it happens. And I think everyone just needs to play by the same rules and abide by protocols. But it can happen, and hopefully it does, and hopefully it can be successful, and we can just put COVID behind us and get back to reality, I guess.
Ramping up towards the Olympics, some really cool stuff happening in the steeple right now in Canada. You've got Ryan Smeen, you've got JS Steganya, we've got John Gay, all doing some really cool stuff. You at this point, you've seen some highs and some lows in the event in Canada. How's the scene looking? How's this crop of guys looking right now?
Yeah, it's nice to see some young guys coming up in the event. That I think they'll be very successful. I hope we have a couple more of them hit the time and qualify, not just on points. It'd be nice to see them dip under 820 and get the time and officially qualify. That would be cool. But it's cool to see a young group of guys. When I got started out as a professional, we had strong guys. It was me, Chris Winters, Alex Genet, and then Taylor Milne later on. But it's nice having potentially 3 and even 4 guys at the standard. It just shows that we have depth in the event again. It's nice to see. So really pulling for those guys and hope that they can hit the time qualifier here in the next month or so.
In all your interviews, you've come across as a very focused guy. So I can't imagine you're thinking much beyond Tokyo 2021 right now. With that being said, you mentioned you're more of a 3-5 guy. You've put down some strong 5s now. As far as the future goes, are you looking towards extending that race length? Looking up in distance.
Yeah. So for sure, definitely not thinking too hard past Tokyo, but it does pop into your head every now and again. And the plan as of now is obviously all the focus is on Tokyo, but with World Champs being in Eugene next year, I think obviously that would be a great way to end my career. It's funny, I look at the first time I made my World Championship debut as a senior was in 2011 in Daegu, and now we're in 2021. So if I make that team next year, it'll be over a decade of making international teams as a senior, which is kind of crazy to think about. I didn't think my career would last this long, and I've been blessed with not only good health to make it this long, but the ability to have sponsorship, have the ability to finance my career. So the plan would be to hopefully run through to Eugene on the track, and then potentially try a marathon in 2023. And then, if it goes well, maybe you look at 2024. But I'm not. I'll see how maybe the roads go, and maybe it's my thing, maybe it's not. But I'm not putting a ton of pressure on myself after I leave the track.
Are we calling this the Rob Watson double then? Moving from the steeple to the marathon.
I guess that would be the plan. I just look at, I've accomplished a lot of the things that I wanted to on the track. So, I think some people would be like, oh, why don't you try the 10K or I've been successful in the 5, so why wouldn't I just maybe go to the 5? But for me, it's like if I'm not being competitive at a level where I'm making, world championship or Olympic finals in that event, and then obviously the 10K is a straight final, but I just I don't want to do this forever as much as I love it. So hopefully doing the steeple next year in Eugene, and then giving the marathon a real shot while I'm able to, rather than only do the marathon when I can't do anything else. I'd like to capitalize on, being young enough to really give the marathon a real shot when I'm willing and able to.
Well, I have to say, first of all, as a fan, that's super exciting. I'm really looking forward to that. But also take a look at your group right now. That seems like a great idea. We mentioned, Paddy's there, and with Dave as your coach, and no, it's just no, that's a great idea, and I'm excited to see what you can do with that.
Yep, for sure. Yeah. I like obviously Dave's coached some marathoners before, and having guys to lean on like Paddy and Kyle that run a bunch of marathons and have that experience. And it'd be, like I said, definitely something I want to do before I don't feel like I can be competitive anymore. So
All right. Well, before that happens, we have the Olympic Games, but you're gonna catch a flight in a couple hours to head off to Europe, and also very excited to see what you can do there. I'm glad I could catch you just before you took off to do that. So best of luck in that, and look forward to seeing you at the Olympic Games this year, man. Really excited for that.
Appreciate it. Yeah, appreciate it. No, thanks a lot.
Big thanks to Matt for chatting before he took off, and it's really good to hear him at the place that he's at right now. I just know listening to him, he's going to do some really great things this year. If you like the show, follow our socials at The Terminal Mile, and tell a couple track buds about us as well, too. We're on all the big podcatchers, YouTube and Tracky.ca. My name is Michael Rokas. This is The Terminal Mile, and I want you to support your local Twilight.